Never stop reading the Bible.
You know, with all the different conflicting voices out there, how do you even begin to figure out what's true? Well, the book of 1 John actually offers a surprisingly simple test. Today we're going to break down 2 key chapters that give us a framework to cut right through all that noise.
And that is a huge question, right? I mean, with so many people, so many messages claiming to have the answer, how can you really be sure? That's the exact problem 1 John sets out to solve, and we're going to dive into its answer.
So our journey starts here in chapter 4, and what it does is it gives us this really powerful litmus test. The claim is that any message that's genuinely from God can be spotted by one specific, undeniable quality: love.
Now, back when this was written, there were a lot of false teachings floating around, so the text gives us a super clear starting point. The very first test for any spiritual message is this: does it acknowledge that Jesus Christ actually came in a physical body? This wasn't some minor theological point, it was the fundamental test of what was true.
It's presented as this really clear black and white choice. On one side, you have the Spirit of Truth, which openly says, yes, Jesus was physically real. But on the other side, any spirit that denies this, what the text calls the spirit of the Antichrist, basically shows its true colors. It's a simple but incredibly powerful test.
Okay, so why is this one detail about a physical body so incredibly important? Well, because it connects directly to the very nature of God. And the text gives us one of the most profound statements you'll ever read. God is love. See, this isn't just something God does, it's who God is. And that becomes the ultimate standard for everything. So how do we see this love in action? The text points to the atoning sacrifice as the ultimate example. The idea that God sent Christ as an offering for humanity's sins, that isn't just a suggestion of love. It's presented as the very definition of it. And get this incredible sacrificial love isn't just something to look at and admire from afar. No way. Instead, it becomes the direct model for how believers are supposed to interact with each other. The logic is pretty straightforward. If you've experienced this divine love, you're called to show that same love to others. So you can see how chapter 4 lays it all out step by step. It starts with receiving God's love. That love empowers believers and, get this, it drives out fear. And the result? It's the final, tangible proof. Your love for other people becomes the strongest evidence that you actually love God. It's an outward sign of an inward reality. Which, leads us to the perfect next question. If this amazing love is the proof, then what's the source? What's the engine that powers this whole thing? Well, chapter 5 is where we find the answer. It shows us that this authentic, world-changing love isn't just some random emotion. It's actually built on something specific and totally solid: faith.
The text makes this super clear connection. The source of this divine kind of love is faith. And not just any faith, but a genuine belief that Jesus is the Son of God. The idea here is that without this foundation, the kind of love we just talked about in chapter 4, well, it's just not complete.
But this faith we're talking about, it's not just a feeling or a thought. Nope, it's active. For those who are called God's children, the path is clear. Belief leads to obedience, which then leads to caring for others through prayer, and finally, staying committed to avoid anything that tries to take God's place. All right, so let's tie this all together now. We've got the proof of love from chapter 4, and we've got the foundation of faith from chapter 5. How do they actually connect to give us the whole picture? This is where you see how these 2 chapters just click together perfectly. Chapter 4 gives us the proof: loving other people. And this comes from God's very nature as love, with the key action being to confess the truth about Jesus. Then, chapter 5 gives us the foundation: faith in Christ. This establishes our identity as God's children, and the key action is obedience. The message couldn't be clearer. You really can't have one without the other. Love is the proof, and faith is the foundation. And that really leaves us with something powerful to think about, doesn't it? If loving others is the clearest evidence of a genuine faith, then what does our love, or maybe our lack of it, say about what we truly believe? It's definitely a challenging thought to end on. So that's our look at the incredible connection between love and faith in 1 John. This explainer was brought to you by the Center Studio. Thanks so much for joining me.